Welcome all to the Atlantic World Art Fair's panel discussion, Collecting Culture, J.A. Stylee. The Olympia Gallery, Frame Center Gallery, and Susie Wong Presents were extremely excited when Lisa Howie from the Bermuda-based Black Pony Gallery invited us to join this online art fair, artsy.com. While presenting challenges in curating an online fair, we were particularly proud that collectively, our three galleries would take over 25 Jamaican and Caribbean artists online to an audience of potentially 2 million. And we were even more excited to be joining with the Frame Center, Charmaine Dominique, Susie Wong Presents, Suzanne Fredericks, in this inaugural venture, along with 6 other regional galleries from Bermuda, Barbados, Suriname, Bahamas, Curacao, and Haiti, to show over 250 top-tiered works from over 18 Caribbean countries and their diaspora. For us at Olympia, we knew that not even the pandemic would deter us from our continued promotion of art and breaking new ground wherever possible. As our founder and visionary, A.D. Scott, also believed when he conceived and built an international art center in the 1970s. As we speak about collecting today, we do pay tribute to Mr. Scott, one of Jamaica's earliest collectors. The legacy continues as the Olympia Gallery Collection. Yes, we continue to collect. So let's go to our panelists who have much to say on the legacy and practice of collecting Jamaica Stylee. We take your comments and questions after the 4 presentations, so please feel free to enter them at any time. O'Neill Lawrence. O'Neill is an artist, curator, researcher, and writer, a homegrown talent who has worked at the National Gallery in various capacities since 2008. With a wide depth of knowledge of Jamaican and Caribbean art, and with skills honed at the National Gallery by many Jamaican and international curators, including the late Honorable Dr. David Boxer, he was appointed senior curator of the National Gallery in 2019. Sandra Moodie, a graduate of the Jamaica College of the Visual and Performing Arts. Sandra is the curator of the Bank of Jamaica Collection, a leading institutional collection of over 1,100 works. She's known in the performing arts arena as a host for the BOJ's monthly lunch hour concerts. Charmaine and Dominique McIntosh are an awesome mother and daughter duo, operators of the Frame Center Gallery in Kingston, established in 1973 by their late husband and father, the noted art dealer and collector, Guy McIntosh. The 80 works of the Guy McIntosh Collection were donated to the National Gallery of Jamaica in 2011. The collection is a comprehensive collection of work by modern and contemporary artists, and as art historian, the late Patrine Archer-Straw noted, represents a defining moment in our art. Maxine Walters, last but by no means least, is an international film producer and is one of Jamaica's most respected cultural ambassadors. She's also an art lover and an avid collector since she was 18. Honored by Jamaica with the Order of Distinction for her inimitable talent and work in film, Maxine has taken art collecting out of the box. Now to you panelists for joining us today. Let's begin with O'Neill. You're up.
All right, thank you very much, Rosie. It's interesting in your introduction, it kind of lays the groundwork for how interconnected all of us are in this kind of landscape of collecting. Today, I am going to be presenting a institutional perspective because Sandra is here representing another institution. But the dialogue I'm going to be kind of going through really is about the National Gallery of Jamaica specifically, and its story. The realities of collecting for an institution are, of course, dependent on their particular mandates. And in a lot of cases, those mandates tend to evolve for a variety of reasons over time. Whether, you know, it's a recalibration of priorities or if it's a change in the socioeconomic environment. Now, in terms of, you could say, public institutions, the collection of the National Gallery is held in trust for the people of Jamaica because we are a public institution. And in a lot of cases, there are a variety of, let me say, a variety of categories that our collection covers. Now, the collection that we have predates the National Gallery's inception because we inherited quite a few works from the Institute of Jamaica, which had been collecting art for a variety of reasons. Some of which were, of course, encouraging the development of the artistic scene in Jamaica in the 1930s and 40s and so on until we came into being. But our current mandate right now as the National Gallery, our current mandate as the National Gallery is to collect, preserve, research the best of Jamaican and wider Caribbean art. And of course, it's our responsibility to disseminate the results of that research through our exhibitions because we're not just a storehouse, of course. We're a public institution that's here to serve the public. And you know, one of the categories, I guess, when you say best, I'll have to point out that of course, as most people would say, is a subjective term. So of course, there's no one person that determines what best is when it comes to our collecting. The collection is largely made up of donations. You'll see, you know, the aforementioned A.D. Scott collection on the screen, or work from the collection, sorry, on the screen right now. And the reality is that we have been the beneficiaries of quite a few generous collectors. Many of these collections cover particular moments in Jamaica, in Jamaican history and socioeconomic development. And the realities of what we want to do with that collection is to be able to tell the story of our culture, of our history, but also to highlight the various developments within that history and story. Now, as I said, we have been the beneficiary of a lot of very generous collections. We have Wayne and Myrene Cox collect a work from the collection here. We collect all types of work, from ceramics to textiles. We also collect a variety of genres, so to speak, you know, from intuitive art to modern art, or the various types of modern art, I should say. But it hasn't just been a matter of donations, and the donations aren't strictly from collectors who have had their own objectives. The work on the screen right now, Aaron and Marjorie Matalan, from the Aaron and Marjorie Matalan collection, was more of a targeted collection. It was developed, so to speak, to benefit the gallery. The collection was amassed by Aaron and Marjorie Matalan to help to fill gaps within the national collection. And of course, you would say that there's no complete filling, so to speak, because there will always be narratives and stories that aren't told. But it is our responsibility as an institution to try and fill those gaps where possible. And that's why we are constantly seeking to acquire more works. And the acquisition is not just through donations, of course. We acquire works through, in some cases, targeted acquisitions where, when possible, we purchase works from artists. And we are doing that um, as you would say the financial environment allows. To make sure that we are staying on the forefront of what is happening, because the story of Jamaican art is essentially a continuing one. It doesn't stop at any one point in time, and it will continue long after my time at the National Gallery and hopefully into the distant future. But it is our responsibility, as I said, to maintain this collection, preserve this collection, and to make sure that the collection is not just representative of what has happened in Jamaica, but also an accessible part of our history for the Jamaican people. I've kept it very short. But we, as I said, the slides continue, but you will see various works from our collection as well. And hopefully when we reopen, you'll be able to see these in person. All right.
Thank you, O'Neill. That's wonderful, and it makes us want to visit the gallery again and into those special rooms that you have. We all know about them. There comes the McIntosh Collection.
But we're not ready yet.
As I said, I know, but as I said, everything is interconnected. It's not just a matter of the fact that we all work together, and we have all. I think everybody that I'm looking at right now, we've all worked together through various initiatives. Whether borrowing, lending, making various exhibitions happening. But I think the best part of this conversation right now is that we can see that we've all come together to make things happen for our public.
Of course. Sandra, I think you're next. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, O'Neill. That was a wonderful presentation. And we're ready when the gallery reopens up from this COVID pandemic to start and revisit. Sandra.
Thank you so much. O'Neill, thanks for that lovely presentation, because as you say, we're both institutional collections, so he kind of set the stage for me. Let me just say I'm so happy to be here and to speak about something near and dear to my heart, Bank of Jamaica's collection. I heard the description, and yes, it's an important collection, but it is important because it began through the visionary leadership of G. Arthur Brown. Art, when people decide to collect art, and there he is, G. Arthur Brown, that's a painting from Barry Watson. Barry Watson actually was the chairman of the first art acquisition committee. So he is the first curator. I wanted to read a quote that G. Arthur said in 1976, and this kind of forms the raison d'etre of the collection. He said that the idea was not only to decorate the new building on Nethersoul Place with wonderful works of Jamaican art, but he said in 1976, he urged those institutions which can afford to do so. He thought that they ought to sponsor Jamaican artists to protect them from the backwaters of poverty. When I hear backwaters, I think mainstream. We're moving them from backwater to mainstream. And I think that was a very important forward-thinking thing to do at that time. And maybe it was the times that pushed this imperative, but certainly he put together a team, Barry Watson, Wanda Stevenson, Eugene Hyde. We also had Jerry Craig, Melvin Ettrick on that first panel. And of course, the many artists that made their work available. In 3 months, they were able to collect 77 works of art from about 40 artists. Oh, this is Explosion Parabol, Jerry Craig. You know, if you notice, the collection ranges in the images that are there, the types of work. We, like O'Neill mentioned, we have painting, ceramics, sculpture, um, fine art, photography, and printmaking. This piece, Trust, is in the area of the bank we call the light well. And some people call it the Handwell because of that 12-foot hand. That's Barry Watson and Cecil Ball. The backdrop, that's ceramics, Cecil Ball's stylized coins and notes, and the hand catching the coins. That and that section of this installation was called the juggler's art. When we talk about institutional collections, the I guess the first thing the collector would have to think of is what drives the collection, what's the philosophy behind it. And G. Arthur was thinking decorating the spaces with beautiful works to inspire employees to just wow visitors, and also that economic side, because certainly we are a central bank. When we think of starting a collection, we really have to think about why we're doing it. What's the philosophy of the institution? We have images of the bank also. We have images of the bank, the waterfront. We have genre paintings. We have um, political statements, but it's all about Jamaica. This piece, and I want Dominique, if you can hold it for a minute. The one thing about collecting as Bank of Jamaica has been collecting since the 70s, you get to see the development of artists over the decades. When we first started collecting Brian McFarlane, his work, and Brian McFarlane's work is personal, but it's cosmic. Hands of Water and Spirit, I think of the ancestors, I think of maybe rites and rituals and religion. And then the next Brian McFarlane we have is uh, a discussion of the family's future. And then the last Brian McFarlane that we collected from Rose's gallery a few years ago, about 2 years ago. Uh, I call them a part of his Beijing paintings. It's called the Silk Road. And we see artists moving along, we get to understand them, we get to know them. And that is why I think sustained collection is important. Ongoing acquisitions is good. Thanks, Dominic. You can move on. Yes. I did mention that we have a wide collection. We not only have the old masters, we have, I suppose, what we call the young Turks. I like this, like the one behind me. I don't know if you can see it well on screen, Ebony Patterson. We also have intuitives, self-taught artists, and that gives, I think, the collection its richness, because we not only focus on one thing. It J. Arthur wanted to impact the lives of um, all artists. So it's about the economy too. It's about making other persons interested in art. Our art is not only in public spaces. Certainly, when we go inside the banking hall, which is the area where most persons would see the Eugene Hyde, the Melvin Ettrick murals, the Kofi Kaiga murals, the huge pieces. But also in offices, we have smaller pieces where we hope persons are inspired. When I actually go to offices to hang, there's always a discussion on art. And I think persons within an institution need to understand what and why it's important to do, the collection. The O'Neill mentioned our, collaboration. And I think, and that is also important, to collaborate with others, to start and to continue a conversation about why art is important, and lend our images to other spaces so other persons will be able to see it. So that for me is important. And I suppose that's the educational aspect of it, the social responsibility aspect, not to hide what we have. I I think we are at a stage in the collection where we we have to look at how the collection is impacting younger artists. We have to look at how we speak about the collection to persons who are actually a part of the institution. So probably foster new collectors, new private collectors, because that is a very important part of the history of art in Jamaica. Because artists create work and they put works on the walls or on a pedestal for viewing. And we as the viewing public will, we have to do a little bit more than look and enjoy. We have the economics have to jump in, we have to purchase, so that this the Jamaican art culture will continue. That's a little plug for me. I am so grateful to be a part of this initiative. I'm grateful, Rosie, for your invitation. I know that others following me will be much more dynamic. Enjoy the rest of the images, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sandra. That's absolutely wonderful, and thank you for reminding me, but letting them that we are still operating gallery, and we work together. That's absolutely wonderful. Charmaine and Dominic, you're up as our collector on a non-institutional way, but just from the love of art.
Hi, morning, everyone. Glad to be part of this panel. So far, so good with the technical issues. All right, the Guy McIntosh Collection. My dad, the late Guy McIntosh, made a pretty hefty donation to the National Gallery back in 2011. Some of the pieces he donated or tried to, I had to steal back because he was being very sneaky about everything and rearranging all the artwork in my room because he needed to redecorate. And what he was doing was really piling up a collection to donate to the National Gallery. From my discussions with my mom, it was a very, very carefully curated donation. He worked on it with Dr. Boxer for about a year. And his thought process behind it was really to have works like this more accessible to people. Not to mention the period and the time period and the kinds of works he felt that maybe the National Gallery would not have the funds in order to access these pieces, and he felt that they were critical works that needed to be displayed. Part of also the reason was he also felt that the wall space at the National Gallery, because we had a lot of these pieces for our home, and sorry, Rosie, I stuck you in there with some of the pictures. So these are the pictures from the event. I just wanted to show everyone, it was a really nice day, and he was very proud of the donation, and it meant a lot to him. So these weren't works that were just casually, hanging up somewhere in storage. They were a part of our family for a very, very long time. It was pieces that my sister and I grew up with. It meant a lot to him, and he wanted to leave behind a very strong legacy as far as artwork was concerned. Milton George was pretty much his favorite artist. It dominates our household to this day. I think Milton George was my dad was one of the few people on the planet maybe that could understand what Milton was trying to say. And this piece, which he donated, called The PM Speaks, which you could say Milton is timeless, because anytime the Prime Minister speaks in Jamaica to this day, it's always stopping traffic. Are we in lockdown? Are we not in lockdown? Are we going to be paying taxes? Are we going to have reduced taxes? So it's always a lot. So he was ahead of the time, but also quite current at the same time. And he also supported a variety of different artists as well. Byron Bowden and Milton Harley, both of those artists we have on display with the Atlantic World Art Fair as well. He was a huge fan of Byron and a huge fan of Milton, and he supported their works very, very heavily. In the background, I'm not sure if you can quite see it, but Byron's colorful pieces and vibrancy and light and color and beauty was something that Daddy also wanted to have in the house as well. So not just the very cryptic, moody pieces of Milton. Let's go on. Here was a perfect piece. This is from the day of the donation. This is actually Stanford Watson's piece, and it just kind of went to show that these pieces, their scale, their size, he wanted to have people to be able to experience that when they went down to the National Gallery as well, not just us in our house or in the gallery. So Stanford made a lot of huge political statements with his pieces, and just the title alone, Malnourished Dog from an Independent State, just says a lot in the title. We also do carry quite a bit of Stanford's work. They're very, very intense, and they're pretty much standalone pieces. You can just put one of his works on your wall. You don't need anything else. On to the next slide. Lara Hamilton, just once again showing the scale of the piece. So he felt that pieces of this size, which are probably not able to go into most people's households, were important to be in institutional spaces as well, the National Gallery. So he made a conscious decision to take down some of the stuff we had hanging on our walls to donate to the National Gallery so people could experience the size and the scope. So I intentionally put these pictures so people could see how big they were, with the scale, so you have an idea of what it looked like. And then in my last piece, I thought that this was perfect for Daddy's intention, and what he wanted was for the works to be available to a wider audience, to a younger audience, for everybody to start a discussion about it. Some of the works were very, politically incorrect and controversial, but I think this picture probably sums up everything that Daddy wanted to accomplish, which was have young people exposed to the art world, and have it and have a lively discussion, and to enjoy it and to experience it, and ask questions. So that's our story, and we're sticking to it.
Dominic, you didn't tell me that you were putting me in there at all.
I'm sorry. It's such a nice picture of you guys, though.
Oh gosh, I remember good memories of your dad. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Maxine?
I'm here.
You are. I know our friendship is there. We're there, and I know you very well. Here you go. You're on.
It is so amazing to be here because, you know, my interest in art was stimulated by two people in the art world. As a young girl, I was very fortunate to know two very special people. One was Iris Day, who operated the only gallery in Jamaica at the time, the Hills Gallery. Her daughter was my best friend, and she had this house that was carpeted, all fully carpeted, and the walls were covered from floor to ceiling with paintings. I'd lie on the floor and look at these things and think, oh my God, one day I want to own stuff like this. And then the other person was Carl Pabu Singh, the inimitable Carl Pabu Singh, who was a family friend and who invited me to my first exhibition opening. It was the opening of the Contemporary Artists Association Gallery on Compton Spring Road, where I met, among other people, Guy McIntosh, who was a very young man and who operated the frame shop at the gallery. Guy became my great friend because I was so fascinated. I'd go to that gallery all the time and just, you know, go and see what was going on. I learned I was a big reader. So my passions are reading, my passion's Jamaica, my passion is subtlety. And I learned to look in the paintings for the subtlety in the work. And subtlety for me meant the humor, first of all, and then the underlying story. And all of that, you know, all these people that influenced me as a young girl always had a bit of that in them. G. Arthur Brown was chairman of the board of Air Jamaica when I worked there as a flight attendant. So I touched, you know, on the National Galleries collection. I touched on the McIntosh Collection, and of course, O'Neill Lawrence is a great friend, and Rosemary is a sister. So what can I tell you? I think outside the box because all the people that I know and mix with are all somehow in the box, but because I visit them, I pop out to see them and get a little bit of each of theirs, and that puts me out there. And I just like the unusualness of stuff. I think of art like a good novel. It must have that story. You know, it must have, I love the fun of it. It must stimulate in terms of entertainment, as well as tell that story sometimes of where we're at. I collect two main things. One are Jamaican street signs, and the other is David Marchand. David Marchand, this is the first piece of his. The fun of this is like, you know, when you go to a fairground and there's a seas captain, well, David's done Jesus Christ. Your hands can go through, your face can go into the front of this picture, and it's called Ultimate Wannabe. The fun, the subtlety, the beauty of it. And David was an amazing person. He was very bright, a little off the norm, maybe a lot off the norm. Some people called him crazy, but he was such a talented artist. He had such feeling, and he also was very into erotica, as you will see in some of the stuff that comes up. And so he was also my neighbor. So it was amazing. And every time he was broke, he'd come over and go, Maxine, how about this painting? Do you want this painting, you know, I need to buy some food for the week. I'd give him food for 2 weeks. This piece is called Tongue in Cheek. It's simply a sardine can with David's interpretation of Tongue in Cheek, one of his erotic pieces. We can move right along. This one is, he was very irreverent in a certain way, yet he was very religious. And he believed that God, you know, looked at us in all kinds of ways. So this one is called To That Cool Guy Up in the Sky. And as you can see, you know, he's put dark glasses on God. The angels are holding them up from him, while the erotic girl is on the beach. And you know, he depicts Jamaica, which of course is another passion of mine. My country is so important. We have so many incredible sights, incredible feelings, and that these are interpreted by the artist, and that's what I look for when I buy a painting. I never buy paintings because it's done by some artist who is you know, famous, or who has done the most recent incredible work. I buy it because I love it. It has fun. It has an underlying story somewhere. This is a self-portrait of David, huge smoker of the good weed. And you do notice that he's got heart, and he's lined his painting with some marijuana leaves. The rainbow was a big part of a lot of his work, because he believed that, you know, there was going to be the rainbow covered and protected everything. And you'll see it popping up in other things. So the self-portrait painted on a mirror. This one is called God Checking It Out for God's Sake. As you can see, God's right in there. This is part of David's eroticism, an amazing piece, which, funnily enough, I only purchased because somebody who I took to visit his studio offered to purchase it and didn't. And he said to me, where are they? And I just bought it as a result. I love the little dog biting on God's toe down there. You know, there's always something very interesting in David's work. He represents all the emotions that are going through him. And this is one of them. Crossings. It was actually called crosses. Crosses in Jamaica represent many things. It can represent the good. It can represent having a bad time. It can represent just, you know, moving on to the next. I don't even know how to interpret this one, but I loved it on site and simply had to have it. He did a lot of crosses, and this is one of his very special pieces. Now the story of this one is entering erotica right away. It's called Bow. In Jamaica, oh dear, how do I interpret this? Cunnilingus? It is looked down on, and Jamaican men will say, oh no, we don't do that. Well, David obviously was a supporter of it, and so he represented that in the best way he knew how. Erotic David Barshard. The other thing that I collect avidly is Jamaican dancehall street signs. When I say dancehall, street signs are mainly done for events in Jamaica. A producer will go to an artist who usually is, you know, a fine artist, but to make some extra money to feed his kids, so producer comes to him and says, I need 150 signs for a dance I'm having this week. He'll get a piece of hardboard, he'll score it, make it into 12 pieces, and turn out these signs rapidly. Sometimes 4 or 5 people work on them to just get them out fast enough. And it happened that the more signs that are at a dance is the more popular a DJ is. And these signs are used not only for music shows, but they're also used for theater, and they're used for religious situations as well. As you can see in these Rasta 90. And Christopher Blackwell, who's a big Jamaican, probably the largest Jamaican producer, once said that reggae music is a soundtrack of Jamaica. Well, the dancehall street signs, I think, are the roadmap that takes you to that soundtrack. Ioctane is a famous artist. Stitchy was a dancehall artist who became very Christian, very religious, and so this piece is devoted to his devotion to God. Stone Love is a famous group. This work was, when done, was placed on the streets, and the parish councils would take them down and burn them because a lot of people thought they were rubbish and garbage. I was presented with one once by an American Peace Corps volunteer. When I looked at it, I went, oh my God, this is art. Not even the artists who painted them regarded them as art. And so for me, I just thought it was wonderful because by collecting them and exhibiting them all over the world, they were recently in the Jamaica Collection, which showed in Paris, Rio de Janeiro, or Sao Paulo, Brazil, and is now open at the National Gallery in Jamaica. I have traveled with them to probably about 15 cities in the world and constantly get invitations. And I also produced a book. It's called Serious Things Go Happen. And it's taken from the street signs. And it was done because my father, who was a Jamaican journalist, helped form a cancer hospice for Jamaica. And they were short of money. And I thought, how can I help this hospice? And I thought, I took the signs from the street. Why don't I just give it back? Am I over time yet? Why don't I just, give it back? And so I created this book, and all the money that I made on this book goes to the Maxine Walters Cancer Care Hospice at St. Joseph's Hospital. For me, it's a joy because it's sharing something that I love so much. Then just living with the signs is a part of my passion, and they're like my children, my husband, they're everything in my life. And I climb walls, I go down gullies, I do anything to collect these signs. And it's a wonderful thing. As you can see behind me are other signs, which they anywhere you put them, people go crazy. When I exhibit them, it's time up.
No, I'm showing, making the screen bigger. Go for it.
Yes. When I exhibit them internationally, it's amazing the people that you meet. They have a life of their own. You go into a city and Jamaicans will come and everybody wants to take a picture in front of them. And they'll come and they'll say stuff like, Oh my God, I remember this event. I was here. I missed home, but yes, man, we had such a good time when bass obviously played at that time. Remember that party and stuff. And then you'll have situations like,
Max, I'm going to say, remember when we went to Cuba together with
yes,
those signs?
right. That was the
And
first exhibition. Yes.
exactly, and the artists showing me that they had never seen hand painted signs.
Yes.
Remember, that was it.
Yes.
She said, this is a uniqueness that they're hand painted, and they'd always sign looked at her as if to say, how else do you get signs? And she says, because they reproduce them or whatever it is. Maxine, remember that trip?
Oh my God, how could I forget? We turned on Havana. When I went to New Orleans, right? I presented in New Orleans, and afterwards, people are coming and talking and asking questions. And there was this one girl hanging around from 4 o'clock in the evening. At 9 o'clock at night, she approached me and she said, I really want to thank you for what you did for me. And I said, what did I do for you? She said, my mother had me when I was 17. She said, I had my first child when I was 17. I wanted to turn it around. I wanted to make their lives better, but I didn't know how. And when I saw this exhibition, I knew I wanted to see this, but I didn't know I was going to meet you. And what you said about life in Jamaica, about working hard, about just doing what you want to do if you want to achieve something, she said, you made me realize that what I'm doing is right. And I was doing it, I'd achieved it. I wanted to be a radio announcer. I know I'm one, but I didn't know I was right until you did this. The signs brought her to me. Every city I go into with these signs brings me a new person, a new thing. They have a life of their own, as Rosie will tell you. They just attract people. And they're now regarded as art. And I'm thrilled. I am so honored that I was able to do this turnaround for one of Jamaica's most amazing means of expression, of marketing, of just showing the world who we are, the roadmap to Jamaica.
Max, thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. No, it's question and answer time, and I do have a question here. I get it on my phone, so I'm going to read it. It is from the first one that came in really was asking. It was for Sandra, and it's from Annie Paul. Is the Bank of Jamaica collection open to the public? And who was G. Arthur Brown?
Thanks for that question, Annie. G. Arthur Brown, as I mentioned earlier, he is the first homegrown Jamaican governor. So he was the first Jamaican governor. He served as governor twice, and he opened the Bank of Jamaica building on Neversole Place. The Bank of Jamaica's collection, because some of the pieces are in private offices or areas that the general public can't go to, but we have lots of wonderful pieces in our public areas, in the bank's foyer, in the auditorium, in the banking hall, and it's a wonderful thing. People can just have a look. But of course, with COVID and protocols, we don't have a lot of persons coming to the bank to do the regular things anymore. But
will we be seeing anything with COVID? And Olympia Gallery has been forced to go online, and we are trying our very best to keep up with the progress of that. Will you be going online? Would we be able to see any of the collection online soon?
Oh, Rosie, you're telling tales out of school. There's
a little.
No,
I'm just asking because we've been. Hello, that's the pressure that I've been under for the gallery. So
yes.
I'm just saying, are you? And I think we see some of National Gallery online with their with their works. Is the bank thinking of that, or
yes. we are
in the future?
We are, and in the near future, you will be seeing sections of our collection throughout.
That'd be wonderful.
On our new website. So that's to come. That's to come. So we have to thank COVID. There is opportunity in the crisis, eh?
Tell me about it.
Oh, yes.
Okay, the second question has come from Stephen Jackson, who is the Gleaner reporter, and he is asking, the construction sector is the only sector that has flourished since the pandemic as a possible safe space for money. Do you collectors think that the value of art has declined or increased since COVID-19? Now, I'm going to say this as Suzanne Fredericks from Susie Wong Presents. She did pen me an answer to that. So here's the answer. The pandemic has ushered in new ways of exhibiting and cultivating the art market, such as this fair and online. Art has maintained its value in this pandemic, and some artists have flourished with increases in value due to demand. And I would have to say I agree with Suzanne, because I think the artists that there has been a demand for the artists whose work, well received. I don't know if it is, you could say good art. There's no such the expression, but there has been an increase in for some artists. I'll say that. What do you say?
Rosie, I wanted to ask.
Yes, please.
Well, I just wanted to. I mean, the National Gallery, of course, isn't a commercial entity, so we don't. We a lot of times we don't really talk about values on those terms, particularly with respect to the finances. But I do think that. I can't address the aspect of the question talking about art now during the pandemic being a safe space for money, but the value of art, and it's how we value art. That's something I wanted to just kind of expand upon, so to speak, because I think the value of art, in my estimation, has increased. But I'm not talking about the financial value. I'm talking about the social value. I'm talking about what it can do for what it has done for people, what it does for people, providing. It provides a narrative that people can respond to in the times that we're living in. It provides respite. It provides solace for people. And for us, we've noted that the need to access art has kind of driven our online initiative, so to speak. So we see that during the pandemic, people have been reaching out more at both our locations, from things for, from art and craft for kids to, trying to connect with exhibitions that they know are there that they want to see. So it's something that we are, in terms of our valuation of art, we're seeing that the value of art for people's mental health, frankly, is something that is more in the forefront right now.
Thank you, O'Neill. A question from Max I have here. Are you still able to collect dancehall signs given the pandemic and the absence of large gatherings?
No, that's a good question, because no, I have been cleaning up what's left on the streets, because of course there are no signs out there. There's no reason to put them out. So I've been picking up what's left and keeping them, which has made the signs now achieve quite a value, because they're no more to be had. Previous to this, they were also printing the promotions for these things on the back of taxis and cars. So the sign thing was disappearing anyway. But until we come back, we have permission to have large gatherings, I doubt we'll have signs.
Max, another question for you from Rihanna Jade Parker. Who, by, and when was it decided that there were art? I suppose she means art in the signs, that you have art in the signs.
Well, I think she's speaking about the fact that I said that they became respected as art. Rihanna, I would say the public decided that. People started collecting them. People started contacting me because they wanted them to decorate venues. They wanted to decorate hotel rooms. They wanted them to purchase for their own homes. I've had people from all over the world. Now, I do not sell the signs. The signs are a collection, which I intend to donate to the Jamaica Music Museum. because as I said, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a roadmap of what was happening in Jamaica, in very much the same way that an artist's song tells you what's going on. Is these signs tell you what's happening in Jamaica at this time. So 50 years from now, when somebody looks at a sign, you know, and says, oh, Vibes Cartel, the Empire, you know, they will have an idea of what was going on. I do not think these should be sold. I think this is part of our history and they should be kept. So they became art because the public loved it. The public went for this book. I get 10 requests a week for people who want the book. The book is out of print right now, but I'll be doing a second edition. And what is art?
And also remember, I do know you have those little magnetic signs I have bought. Those
Yes.
little things that
Yes.
I put on the fridge. So
Yes,
I
the
looked
fridge
at it this
magnets.
morning.
I have to give
And-
full credit of that to the National Gallery of Jamaica, who for
Of course,
well,
that's
for the
where I
ones
got
in
it.
Jamaica, but also they were first produced in Paris by Sebastian Carriol for the Jamaica exhibition there, and they went like, you know, gone like a whiz, and they're beautiful. I mean, I have them on my fridge. Don't you all go buy them now? Because I want more.
And I also recall and I saw Sandra putting up the book in before. The Bank of Jamaica has a book for the collection. I don't know if it's still available because it was well sought after when the
Yeah.
production was, and maybe could be a thought of a plug here to do another production run. Both Maxine and yourself, because you both
Oh.
of you are saying your books are out.
I'm doing it. There's no question about it. Mine's coming up because I think the world should have this. This is Jamaica to the world.
Lovely.
Sandra,
Well, let me. This is ours. Can you? There it is.
It's
Yes.
a fabulous book.
Yes. Yeah. It was a labor of love.
I need a copy.
I'll have to see if there are any more copies left. It was a while ago.
Yes.
If we're doing another book, I'll make sure you have one.
Yeah. And I'll give you one of mine.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
but I think that's a lot of ways of how art is shared. Charmaine and Dominique is not how a lot of art is shared. I don't know if it's in collecting. Sometimes you recognize the art that you love, and you I think this is, you know, artists come to us, we see the art, and it is now the art of seeing. That's what your family, both of you, and Guy at the time recognized the artist. And
Yeah, I mean, he had a revolving door. I think he probably missed his calling as a psychiatrist, really, because he had a revolving door of people in his office where he would have coffee and just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, or listen to the artist. And he was a big supporter. I remember Alan Zion coming through a lot, Milton. I mean, pretty much everybody. And he supported these artists furiously. And, you know, he would buy a body of works from them. And it was work that he loved. And one of the main things that he always told new collectors is not necessarily about investments or quote unquote value, but as Maxine said, do you like it? Do you love it? Do you love it? Does it make you feel happy? Does it do something to you? And that's the first conversation that you need to have, aside from, well, what is this going to be worth in 5 years or 10 years? The most important thing is you have to love it. And especially for the signs, I mean, I remember being in high school, my friends, well, a few of them would drive around late at night and take these signs off the poles and just keep them in their rooms. So this has been happening for a long time. So I think everyone recognized the posters and the signs for all of these dance hall events, not to mention the names of bars when you drive around the island with the most creative names whatsoever. That's a whole different industry unto itself. But I think for Jamaica, it's so unique. So we have from institutional investing, art collecting, down to, you know, street signs. You know, it's rich, it's very unique, and everything has a very important story to tell.
Thanks for saying that, Dominique. Can I just say something? It's not
Sure.
everyone who recognizes the value of the signs. There are certain neighborhoods in Kingston where they're considered rubbish and they tear them down. The parish councils, because people haven't paid to pick them up, burn them. There are others who just rip them off. But now there's a guy in Ocherius who sells signs for $1,000 each, and it's given him a way of life, you know, given him a means of earning a living. Makes me feel good. But it's, you know, so I'm happy that people are recognizing this, but you'd be surprised. Most people say, what are you doing up there, miss? What are you doing? You know, when I can't reach a sign, I said to a guy, I'll give you $100. $100? Yeah, man, me take that down. It'd be surprised how many people think it's rubbish.
I know you so well. Okay, this is another question that's come in from Charmaine Mackenzie. Did not know about the fridge magnets. Are they still available? And it's O'Neill has answered. Oh, O'Neill, please answer.
Well, I have to preface that by saying that the National Gallery is unfortunately closed, but we do still have fridge magnets available. So I think I can try and communicate the email address. You can contact and see if, see how we can put them in contact with our gift shop manager, Miss Singh. So maybe an arrangement can be made, but we're currently closed, but we do still have the magnets, and
Okay.
Thank you. We can make we can see if arrangements can be made for their purchase. Yes, that's the statement I was struggling with.
Well, a question that I always get is, who's new on the market? Anybody new for us to start looking at collecting? And I always sort of have to be very careful because you do represent a lot of artists. But I can say for the gallery, Olympia Gallery, for us new, we have Zora Allen, who was part of the curator's choice of this Atlantic World, which we're very pleased about. And we have showing Kimani Beckford and Greg Bailey as a new artist, you could say, new kids on the block. And we're very proud of that. A plug for them from us. I have to say, closing, thank you all to our panelists for their brilliant and valuable input today. We encourage all to enjoy, appreciate, and collect art. If it speaks to you, just do it. Bye. You can always, because if it speaks to you, that's what it's about. And continue to visit our galleries to learn and appreciate more on the art, on what's happening. Our thanks to Lisa Howe of the Bermuda-based Black Pony Gallery for the tremendous initiative, which is the Atlantic World Art Fair. To the 6 joint galleries and agencies who worked with us on this fair, to Suzanne Fredericks, Charmaine and Dominique McIntosh, who joined us with this in presenting this panel, and to Jessica Jones of Olympia Gallery, and to you all for listening in. Thank you all again. The Atlantic World Art Fair continues on artsy.com through to June 20th.
.net, artsy.net. That has taught me plenty times. Artsy.net.
Oh my gosh, yes? Artsy.
Yes, artsy.net. Unless you want to buy .com for like 10,000, but it's artsy.net.
Through June 21st. Please enjoy.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye. It was
Bye.
good talking to y'all.
Wonderful. Thanks for this. I love this. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Maxine. You're great. Sandra and O'Neill.
All right.
Sandra, we have to get
Rosie.
together.
Oh, yes, we do.
And Odile, I need to
Great.
talk to you.
No problem.
We notated on the bye.